German police say they have identified the likely perpetrators of the September 2022 Nord Stream 1 and 2 gas pipeline bombings. The explosions released 350,000 tons of methane into the Baltic Sea and sparked a major geopolitical crisis, initially raising suspicions about the Kremlin, the Telegraph reports. According to investigators, the operation, allegedly called Diameter, was carried out by a group of 6 Ukrainian individuals. The key figure has been identified as Sergey K, a 49-year-old retired Ukrainian naval captain and former Secret Service officer who was detained by Italian police at a beach resort on the Adriatic Sea. He is scheduled to be extradited to Germany. The operation required a high level of preparation. 4 members of the team were experienced deep-sea divers who planted explosives on the seabed at a depth of 80 meters. For this, they rented the yacht Andromeda, which looked like an ordinary tourist boat. The bombs were planted near the Danish island of Bornholm using high-grade military explosives. The investigation has established a range of evidence linking the suspects: fingerprints, DNA, border control video cameras, mobile phone records, and statements from a taxi driver who was used for transportation. There are also suspicions of official assistance, including a car registered to a military attaché at the Ukrainian embassy in Poland. German prosecutors have issued arrest warrants for all 6 suspects, who are charged with jointly causing an explosion, unconstitutional sabotage, and destruction of infrastructure. The value of the damaged pipelines is estimated at £20 billion sterling, and the budget for the operation was only about $300,000. The Ukrainian government denies authorizing the operation. According to the Wall Street Journal, President Volodymyr Zelenski allegedly tried to intervene, but the unit was already operating in deep cover, and former Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzny, now ambassador to London, allegedly ignored his instructions. Experts say the attack has served as a wake-up call to Western countries about the fragility of their energy infrastructure. NATO is being forced to improve pipeline protection and use drone surveillance and other measures, says Ed Arnold of the Royal United Services Institute. If convicted, Sergey K risks a long prison sentence, but upon returning to Ukraine, he could be considered a national hero.
Clearance operations in the village of Wyriki near Lublin, Poland, continued Thursday morning after it was hit when Russian drones violated Polish airspace during an attack on Ukraine. According to Associated Press, multiple Russian drones crossed into Poland on Wednesday in what European officials described as a deliberate provocation, causing NATO to send fighter jets to shoot them down. A NATO spokesman said it was the first time the alliance confronted a potential threat in its airspace. The incursion, which occurred during a wave of strikes by the Kremlin on Ukraine, and the NATO response swiftly raised fears that the war could spill over, a fear that has been growing in Europe as Russia steps up its attacks and peace efforts go nowhere. Poland requested an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on the drone incursion. Russia's defense ministry said it did not target Poland, while Belarus, a close ally of Moscow, said it tracked some drones that lost their course because they were jammed. However, several European leaders said they believed the incursion amounted to an intentional expansion of Russia's assault against Ukraine. Polish airspace has been violated many times since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but never on this scale in Poland or anywhere else in NATO territory. Polish authorities on Wednesday were seen inspecting debris in a village near the border with Belarus said to be from one of the downed drones that entered Polish airspace overnight. According to Associated Press, Poland said earlier that multiple Russian drones entered its territory over the course of several hours and were shot down with help from NATO allies, describing the incursion as an act of aggression carried out during a wave of Russian strikes on Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry said it did not target Poland, but close ally, Belarus, said it tracked some drones that lost their course because they were jammed. However, several European leaders said they believe that the incursion amounted to an intentional escalation by Russia of its war on Ukraine. Poland said some of the drones came from Belarus, where Russian and Belarusian troops have begun gathering for war games starting on Friday. The army of the aggressor country, the Russian Federation, has been preparing UAV attacks not only in Ukraine, but also in Poland since July. It turned out that Polish and Lithuanian SIM cards had been recorded on Russian attack drones for 2 months, writes Defense Express. It is noteworthy that the leadership of the Republic of Poland was warned in advance about this insidious plan of the Russians. It is also noted that the presence of Polish and Lithuanian SIM cards on Russian drones directly indicated that the Russian armed forces were preparing to fly UAVs over the territory of these countries, as well as to test connections to mobile networks. It is believed that the purpose of the Russian attack on Polish territory, which took place on the night of Wednesday, September 10th, was to conduct reconnaissance of the country's air defenses. In addition, the drone strike on Poland is linked to the fact that on Friday, September 12, military exercises, West, 2025, will begin in neighboring Belarus. Recall, Polish airspace was violated by at least 19 Russian drones overnight, the country's prime minister said, in a torrent of activity that triggered a response from the NATO country's air force, which scrambled and downed several of the drones. Those drones that posed a direct threat were shot down, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on social media. I am in constant communication with the Secretary General of NATO and our allies. Polish and Allied aircraft, including Dutch F-35 fighter jets, were airborne overnight to help ensure safety in Polish skies, the military said. Those operations ended early on Wednesday, Warsaw said, adding that the search continued for downed drones and potential impact sites. Tusk confirmed that 2 F-35s, 2 F-16s, and Mi-24, Mi-17 and Black Hawk helicopters were dispatched to the anticipated area of operations. As already mentioned, the F-35s belong to the RNLAF, while the F-16s are from the Polish Air Force. The unprecedented incident marks the first time that Russian assets have been destroyed over NATO territory since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. According to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, a huge number of Russian drones crossed into Polish skies during the assault, which targeted several Ukrainian regions. Speaking ahead of an emergency government meeting in Warsaw, Tusk described the incursions as a large-scale provocation and emphasized that all our allies are taking the situation very seriously.